Parallel ATA, or PATA, is an IDE standard for connecting storage devices like hard drives and optical drives to the motherboard. PATA generally refers to the types of cables and connection that follow this standard. IDE, or Integrated Drive Electronics, refers to the standardized connections for storage devices in a PC. The ATA standard was developed in 1986 by a trio of hard drive makers. Western Digital and Compaq may be a few you recognize. Parallel ATA used to be simply called ATA and was retroactively named to Parallel ATA when the newer Serial ATA standard came into being. PATA cables are long, flat cables 20 pins wide in 2 layers, giving 40 pins. One end plugs into the port on the motherboard, usually labeled IDE, and the other into the back of a storage device like a hard drive. Some PATA cables have an additional connector midway through the cable for connecting another storage device. PATA cables come in 40-wire or 80-wire designs. Most modern storage devices require the use of the more capable 80-wire PATA cable to meet certain speed requirements. Both types of PATA cables have 40 pins and look nearly identical, so telling them apart can be difficult. Usually the connectors on an 80-wire cable will be black, gray, and blue, while the connectors on a 40-wire cable will only be black. PATA cables are also length limited by signal attenuation, making the maximum usable length of the cable around 18 inches. PATA ribbons can have 2 devices attached and use bidirectional channels for data. The channels able to transmit data both to and from the controller. PATA controllers can host a maximum of 2 devices designated as master and slave. Jumpers were needed to determine which was the master and which was the slave. Jumpers are removable plugs whose absence or placement on a piece of hardware determines how the hardware is to be configured. PATA ribbon cables take up a lot of space and can block airflow through the case. PATA is not hot swappable, which means that the hard drive cannot be connected and disconnected without turning the computer's power off. This table shows the many revisions of ATA. Data transfers were only at 133 megabytes per second. In 2003, Serial ATA was invented. It was much faster and had much smaller cable width, 7 pins wide in a single layer, which provided better airflow in the case. SATA cables can be up to 1 meter long and use less voltage, decreasing the heat output of the system as a whole. This led to the decline of parallel ATA.